Greetings everybody, Hussein here from TotalUrbanSurvival.com, and today we're going to be taking a look at a review and a critique of the Japanese knife making industry in general. Okay, so I got a request from a brother in Indonesia, and he asked me basically to review the whole Japanese knife industry as a whole, which was pretty big, and also to take a look at a couple of knives from Japan and what I think about them, etc., etc. Okay, so that's it. So we're going to take a look at this now. And first of all, we're going to be looking at specifically one place which is super famous in Japan, and that place is called Seki City in Gifu. Gifu is quite a ways away from Tokyo. I live in Western Tokyo. I'll show you all this afterwards. And then Gifu is quite a ways away. So we're going to be looking at what is actually the history of this, and we're also going to be taking a look at why they are so famous and what's the value that you're getting when you buy a knife from these people. So basically, this is the website here. It's called chefslocker.com, and he asked me to take a look at this. So I see the knife is about here at 120 pounds. Okay, that's quite some money. That's quite a lot of money. I mean, that's maybe $150, something like that, or $160 US dollars. And let's take a look at this knife. So when we click in here, it's a pretty decent looking knife. Nice Damascus blade, pretty nice handle, good quality. This is not plastic, okay, guys. Just keep that in mind. Japanese quality knife makers, they don't use plastic or anything like that. This is probably a very good quality wood, maybe ebony or something like that. At that price. For cheaper knives that you find like manufactured in China for like $7 or $8, they'll use plastics for sure, but higher quality Japanese knife makers, they wouldn't use that. They would use good quality woods and other types of high quality materials, rather than using plastic. Okay, so now this is the company. Before we actually get in here, the company's the name is actually called Kanetsune. Kanetsune 33. Kanetsune, actually, just for reference, Kanetsune is actually the name of a person. And that person was a very famous knife maker many, many years ago during the Kamakura period in Japan. The Kamakura period was about 800 years ago in Japan, and it was very, very, very powerful time in Japan. The leadership and all that is a very powerful and influential time in Japanese history. And they had some very amazing art, and they had very amazing music and dances, and also sword makers and things like that for the samurai and the bushi, the warriors who were alive at that time. And later on, also they served as an influence until today. So Yokohama and Tokyo, we're like twin cities. So we can easily get over there in about 30 to 40 minutes on the train. We can get over to Kamakura. And I'll do that one day for you guys. We'll take a trip down to Kamakura, and I'll show you guys the city in detail over there. Okay? So it's a pretty famous city, and Kanetsune was a great swords maker. And basically, the company is named after him. Whether or not this knife maker or this knife company is directly related to the original family or to the knife maker himself, Kanetsune, I don't know. So, but apparently, the people who are controlling this brand, they are called Kitasho Company in Gifu, and it is Mr. Kitamura-san over here. This gentleman that you can see here, Kitamura-san, is the chairman of the company, and I think his family owns it. Okay, so now let's take a look here. Where is Gifu? So, Seki City is actually one of the most famous places in Japan to buy any kind of bladed weapons. They have blade weapons festivals. They have special companies that have been in business for a very, very long time, making butcher knives, making filleting knives, making all different types of fruit knives, making swords, making all kinds of stuff. Because basically, after the Edo era, when Edo era ended in 1867, I believe it was, Edo era ended. That was the last great samurai dynasty. What happened is that during the time of the Meiji Restoration, when the emperor came back into power again, they actually banned the samurai from wearing swords or any type of weapons or anything like that, or any kind of really hardcore regalia or something like that, samurai war regalia. All these kind of things were banned. So basically, they had to start doing something else because people didn't buy swords that much anymore. So they had to start changing. So they started to make kitchen knives, butcher knives, scissors, very super amazingly high quality scissors. Okay, they had paring knives, they had filleting knives. They basically didn't give up their skill sets. What they did is they just shifted them into other edged weapons, EDC carry tools, for example, pocket knives, folding knives, things like that. Other type of weapons which were a little bit more modernized and acceptable in the environment. So that's basically what happened. So Seki City is famous for all kinds of edged weapons and blade craft in Japan. And you can see it over here. I live in Hachioji over here. Hachioji is the western part of Tokyo. So basically you would have to go all the way through here to Yamanashi, and then you have to go through Aichi. Maybe you wouldn't need to go through Aichi actually, maybe not. Aichi down here. Oh, interesting side note here. Aichi is actually the main city for Toyota. There's Toyota City, okay, and the whole Toyota company, the biggest car company in the world is Toyota, and Toyota actually has an entire city that they own, and they control everything in that city. They have their own banks, they have their own town, they have their own everything. Everybody in that town is a Toyota employee, and they all marry each other. There's a lot of Toyota incestuousness happening in Toyota. They're all working for Toyota and marrying each other. So it's weird. It's weird. But everybody in that place is a Toyota employee. Anyways, that's just a side note. Interesting. I thought you guys might like it. And then, anyways, you have to cross over here, and then you get over this area over here called Gifu. And then there's a city down in Gifu called Seki. Let's zoom in a little bit more. Where's Seki? Here it is. This city over here, Seki City. And Seki City is where the famous knife makers have been for hundreds and hundreds of years. Okay, so that's basically what it is. And this is the history of the place. And this is all the way back to the Kamakura era. So let's get back to Kanetsune. And let's take a look at the knife itself. So when we look at these knives made from Japan, I mean, if we're first of all going to take a look at the Japanese knife industry, the thing that we have to understand, first of all, okay, is that take a look at the name. The name is Kanetsune. Now we come down over here, we see another beautiful craft from them. Very, very beautiful. Damascus blade, very high quality, beautiful handles, very good insets, very good, very, very beautiful blade. Let's take a look at another one over here. Wow, look at that. What a beast. Okay, so when we take a look at Japanese blade, one thing you'll notice that there's always a name attached to it. And this is a very, very different thing, an important thing. The brand is not just a brand in Japan. It's more than a brand. It's a reputation that goes behind it. So it's like when you go to a very high-class brand like Louis Vuitton or Rolex or something, it's not just the name anymore of the person that made it, but it's also the reputation of the individual's family, the company, everything kind of rolled into one. So when you purchase a high-quality blade in Japan and there's somebody's name behind it, for example, we see over here this gentleman who publicly puts his name behind the brand and behind the knife, Kitamura-san himself and his family and everybody in the company are probably directly feeling their reputation is under threat if something would go wrong with the product that they sell you. And the reason for that is because in Japan, people don't actually work for a company for 3 years or 2 years or 1 year, and then they're like sayonara and they start going to the next company and they do something completely new over there and then they change to another company. This is very unusual in Japan. In Japan, if you start in a company, let's say for example this company Kitasho, I go over to Kitasho when I finish university or after I finish high school or whatever, and I sign up and I start working there. I work in Kitasho company from the time that I am 24 or 23 years old until the time that I retire, most probably. So the reality is that all the products that go through a Japanese manufacturer are related to somebody's entire life. That's how serious it is. It's usually related to people's entire lives. Those of you who like G-Shock or Casio Factory, for example, we can use Casio Seiko. It's the same concept. So you go to the Casio factory or the Seiko factory, what you'll notice is that the people who are making the G-Shock watches, like for example the high quality MTG and stuff like that, these guys have been working in Casio for like 20 years, 30 years. They don't give the regular products, the high quality and famous products to any random Mr. Sato on the side of the road. They give it to the people who are there committed for a long period of time, and they've taken over the production and they've attached their name and their reputation to that product. So when the product is actually sold out, it's their personal reputation in front of their co-workers and in the front and the eyes of the company and the community that is affected if there's something wrong with that product. That's why you see the quality of Japanese products is usually so high in comparison to a place like, for example, if you go to Bangladesh or China, well they'll just manufacture something, stamp a fake brand on it that has no meaning, and then sell it to the next company, or put no brand on it, and then the next company can come stamp their name on it and sell it somewhere. There's no personal connection, there's no reputation, there's no face, there's no dignity, there's no honor. It's just something to sell cheaply and make a quick dollar. So it's a completely different mentality, right? So when you buy a knife from Japan, or when you buy a knife from any high quality knife maker, what you're buying is not just the quality of the materials themselves, but the promise, the reputation, the dignity, and the honor of the knife maker, their family, and their associates who assisted them to help to make that blade for you. Understand what you are purchasing. So let's go back over here. We take a look at this weapon, and I called it a weapon because I believe it is a weapon, and I'll get into that afterwards. And we can see the quality of the blade for sure. It's a very high quality blade. So, okay, let me see. So we've got a full tang double bevel. All right, so we've got a wood handle over there. Now these ones, Santoku, I mean, these are not bad. These are pretty good. These are decent knives. They're not bad. But still, this is cheap for a Japanese knife. This is cheap. It's just okay. Okay, it's a reasonable quality blade. It's not bad at all, but it is like mediocre level. Okay, if you want to get into really high quality Japanese knives from Seki, uh, it can run you into the hundreds of dollars. I mean, $600, $700, $800. The same thing like a good quality Chris from Indonesia or Malaysia. It can run you hundreds of dollars, sometimes thousands of dollars, depending on what the quality of the materials are, and also who is the knife maker that actually made it for you. So these are not bad. I mean, it's pretty good for the price that you're paying. It's not that bad, okay? But I wouldn't say that this is the top of Japanese knife making. It's not. Definitely not. The materials that I'm seeing here and also the specs and stuff like that, it's not bad. But it is definitely not the top of the game. These are really getting into the cheap versions now that are just for hacking and stuff like that. This one looks a little bit better. Yeah, there we go. Okay, yeah. So this looks a little bit better. And you got Shirogame, okay, rosewood. Yeah, as I said, you have better quality woods now for the handle material and stuff like that. They would never use plastic on a good quality knife. And this is not bad at all. Okay, so there we've got it. So that's basically it. So if you're looking for a Japanese knife, a chef knife or butcher knife or something like that, and you want to buy it and it's like in between like $100 to $200, it's a pretty reasonable, okay knife. But if you want to start going into a really high quality blades by master craftsmen with super quality materials behind them, then you're going to definitely be looking at something like $300 or $400 if you're buying it from Seki. Or if you're buying a custom-made knife from Bladesmith and Seki, you can probably start looking at $700, $800, or $900, depending on the person that you're buying it for and the agreement you have from them. Unlike the Kanto area being mostly Tokyo, Yokohama, this whole area over here is referred to as the Kanto area, and some other areas around also. Unlike Kanto area, the other parts of Japan are more reasonable when it comes to negotiation, so you can bargain the price a little bit. It's very unusual in Yokohama or Tokyo to negotiate price. If you do that, people get very uncomfortable, and it's not part of the culture of this area of Japan. But if you go to the southern part of Japan, you go to the western part of Japan, it is more acceptable to bargain. So you could probably make a deal with somebody, if you, even online, if you can find somebody that you can communicate with, and then try to get a little bit of a deal on one of those higher quality blades instead of going for one like that. If you want to invest in a knife like this, buy one which is a better quality, unless if you're planning on keeping it for a longer period of time and using it regularly. Now, if you're looking for something, if we're getting into the defense and combat areas now, if you're looking at the knife in the same way that I look at it, as a tool but also as a weapon, now we're talking about something else. Then I would suggest going for something that is a little bit cheaper. For example, the one that you see on the screen here, something like, where are we over here? Something like this would be a decent weapon that you could use. So it's a tool and a weapon because it has a nice sharp tip. And it's not that expensive. Something like this also, I have a Tramontina that I like to work with. And these ones are basically tools. I like Tramontina specifically because the price is very good and also because of the handles. A wood handle, if you drop the knife or something like that, the wood handle is probably going to have a higher chance of breaking, which is something that will be a bit annoying if you want to be training with the tool, right? So I use it for training. I use the blade for training, for moving around, to practice, stuff like that. So I'm really big on butcher knives and any kind of real live steel blades for training. I really like that. I've been using these for many years, and everybody knows me for it because this is my favorite weapon. And the reason for it is because this is what I've encountered the most on the street. This is what I've encountered the most on the ambulance when I was working on the ambulance as a paramedic. And these are the types of weapons that would be stuck into people's bodies more routinely than a $300 or $400 Spyderco's, okay, or any other expensive weapon, which is basically a collector's play toy. These are the types of weapons that actually kill people. When the mafia wants to murder somebody, they don't buy a Spyderco to do it. They either shoot the person or they take them away somewhere and they finish them off with this and cut them into pieces. So these are the real tools of the trade in terms of the bloody business of edged weapons. So that's why I really like to use these. I train with them all the time because it's my primary training tool for live blades. When I'm training by myself for blade drills and stuff like that, I love these butcher knives, chef knives, and real steel tools. So for me, I would say Tramontina is a good if you're looking for a lower price training weapon because of the plastic handles, really good quality. And these are really good if you're going to be using it on a daily basis. Also, it looks pretty tough, the handles and stuff, so they can probably handle some drops and stuff like that. Shouldn't be a problem. But if you're worried about it, like I said, go for the plastic handles. And as a defensive tool, if you're living in a country like Japan or other places where guns are not prevalent in the society, okay, which is most places in Asia, guns are not prevalent in the society, and you use edged weapons in order to protect your home, a machete sometimes is a little bit unruly because the houses, maybe the space or whatever in the house is not really conducive to having a longer weapon. This is an excellent decision for you to make, okay? It's intimidating, it's functional, it's really strong, it doesn't have much give, you know. These are really good weapons as much as they are tools for using on a daily basis to make your steaks with. These are really good fighting weapons. So the bottom over here, as I mentioned to my students all the time, this one is very good for butting, and this one is also very good for hacking and for striking in close quarters or for ripping. If you want to rip against the face or the side of the neck or something, you have a very sharp point, which you can even sharpen more at the bottom over here in which to do so, okay? So this is a really effective tool, and it's also extremely intimidating. And intimidation is as important as technical fighting skills because you must be able to intimidate, because basically you can intimidate one person in order to stave off 3 or 4 other ones. So it's a very powerful tool of intimidation. If I have a weapon like this in my left hand and this one in my right hand, and I'm moving pretty fluently with the two of them, the chances of somebody being willing to engage with me is much lower because of the intimidation factor of this type of tools, as opposed to a very cool little small Spyderco folding knife. Okay, I prefer to have this. It's a lot more intimidating and a lot more aggressive than any kind of small Spydercos or folding knives or stuff like that. It doesn't really have that same fear factor that the Cyclone butcher knives do. Okay, so that's my opinion on the whole thing, and I wanted to inform you a little bit about the Japanese knife industry and the history of it and why it's so valuable and important. And I hope you liked it. And if you have any questions, of course, you can always leave your questions in the comments for me, or you can send me the question via social media or Telegram anytime. Or message me or email me at totalurbansurvival.com. So I hope you enjoyed yourselves. Take care of yourselves, brothers. Stay safe, stay lethal, and stay humble all the time. My greetings to you. My greetings to your family. I love all of you. Take care of yourselves.